If there is one thing I'm sure about, is that most people are far more talented and extraordinary than they believe themselves to be. A lot of us think that we have nothing unique to show to the world, that we're too ordinary for anybody to care about our ideas, that whatever we do, there's always going to be someone that can do it better than us. In reality, we each have a personal combination of skills, passions, and talents that make us far more unique than we give ourselves credit for. The problem is that we choose to separate our personal qualities when in fact we should be combining them. Over the past year, I've been experimenting with the idea of combining passion with craft, create products, and can provide something new and original to the world. I want to share this experiment with you, hoping that you can start a project of your very own. It's self-fulfilling in many ways, combining what you love with what you do best, because it opens the door to your own limitless imagination. It allows you to explore your own talents and skills. And best of all, it gives you a world which is wholly yours to explore. All you need are three things: a passion, a craft, and a solution. Let's start off with passion. When it comes to passion, we need to understand ourselves. We need to understand why we enjoy doing the things we love. We need to look back all the way to our childhoods and see what our interests and hobbies were throughout the years. We're looking for a pattern with which these hobbies and interests reflect on our true inner passion. I'll use myself as an example. Over the years, I love to draw comics, I love to write short stories, and I love to produce my own music. So what's the pattern here? Drawing, writing, music. I looked deeper into each hobby, trying to understand what was the core similarity, what was there that spoke to me. And I realized that each of them was a medium in which I could tell stories. Through these mediums, I was able to give people a window to my own imagination. I realized that storytelling was my inner passion. So now that we have a passion, we now need a solution. And here's where things start to get creative. If we want to have our very own unique project, we need to first find a problem that is worth solving. And the place where we can start with that is with our passions. We know a lot about our passions, about its ups and downs, about its shortcomings, and about the various problems that might appear. We want to ask ourselves, what is the biggest problem within my passion? There can be many problems. It can be the case if your passion involves a certain sport type. It can be the case that injuries are too frequent, or it could be the case that the learning curve is too high, or it could be the case that the tools you need or the equipment you need are way too expensive. These are all legitimate problems that you can try to attempt to solve. So what did I ask myself? I asked myself, what is the biggest problem when it came to creating my own stories? And I said, it takes years to come up with a good story. But it doesn't stop there. We want to keep on nagging. We want to keep on asking why. Why? Why did it take me so long to write these stories? And I would say, okay, plot holes and inconsistencies start popping up. I have to throw away a lot of chapters out. And you continue on asking why. The reason being is that every single time you ask why, you're revealing a new layer to the problem that you didn't even realize about. The main point of this is that you want to solve a problem at its root, not at its surface. The idea here is that you solve or you cure the problem, not its side effects. So what was the root problem I revealed, or found out about storytelling, it came all down to planning out the story world. At first, the plot is simple. You got your main characters, you got your 2 or 3 villains, but as you add on more chapters, or as you go on into the story, things get a bit more complicated. You gotta throw out chapters, you gotta rethink the story, and it's really demotivating, especially for people who start out with writing, that they have to get rid of certain things they spent way too much time writing on and investing in. So my solution focuses on fixing that, on making the planning process a lot more easier, efficient, all without sacrificing quality and, of course, the fun of writing. So now that we have our solution, we now need a craft. Now, what do I mean by craft? Craft is any form of field or work that you can use to apply your solution. Now, normally, this would be your field of study or expertise, but it doesn't have to be. It can be something you enjoy, can teach yourself. The great thing about the internet nowadays is you can almost learn anything. There is an absolute abundance of information, guides, and tools that you can use. For my very first project, I decided to build an app. But prior to that, I've never built an app before, nor have I programmed anything before. But within 3 months, I was able to build a fully functional app. Was it good? Maybe not. But it did what it was meant to do. And that's the main point here. You want to build a prototype. You want to build the most minimal thing you can have as your solution. And once you have that, you can then think about all the features and whether you want to be the big next thing, but you don't have to be. You just got to have that base thing ready. And from there, you can use your prototype to get feedback, to ask people what they think of it. And this is where you start growing your project. You can take it after that into any form of direction you want. To help illustrate everything I've just said, I want to show you something I've been working on the past 2 months. Project 1001, after combining my passion, craft, and solution, I came up with the project 1001, an assistant software that helps you create and plan out the entire story world with you. And the way that works is software divides the story into different layers. The characters, the factions, the world, the social norms of the time, where the story takes place. All of these things are taken into consideration at the beginning. And you go into more detail with that. You start dictating what kind of characters you want. And the amazing thing about the software is it allows you to generate characters with their own fully fledged personalities and backstories. More than 30 variables dictate the different backstories and psychologies and their agendas and their life goals behind these characters. And the thing behind this generation tool or sort of planning tool is when it comes to planning the chapters or the scenes, the assistant software can then say, hey, this would be a nice chapter suggestion. Or it would be case, for example, if you have a certain chapter they would like to add, then it would say, wait a minute, there's an inconsistency here. Or there is no conflict here when there should be, for example. And the amazing thing about having a project like this, even though you haven't created a full version of it and all of you're just showing is just a mock-up or a prototype, it's amazing to show people what it would be like to have it. It's amazing to have your very own project where you can just go in whatever direction you want. And it's as if you find yourself in a gold mine where every time you continue on mining, you'll always find more and more places to mine in. And there's one last thing I would like to share you that is needed for this method, and that is to be persistent. You will be disappointed, you will lose, and you will fail a lot. But failure is not an end. It is a means. Failure is your compass. When people don't like your project or your product, you want to ask why. You want to ask them, what would make you like it? Or what would you like to have for you to use it? You want to continue on building on that feedback to help build value for your project. And that's the way you do it. Through failure, you find the right directions for your project. And if you do as I've told you, and you will realize how talented you are, and come to understand your talents and your skills. And best of all, if you're lucky, you'll be doing something you love for the rest of your life. Thank you.